People started coming in. All right, well, we'll let people start coming in. Nobody coming in yet.
Can you
Oh,
take
there we
Daniel
go.
off does it show up with Daniel's name on there?
It does. Daniel's on the panelist side. We have Christy and Sandra coming in. Erica, good to see everybody. We'll get into it in just a minute. Todd, good to see you, Todd. Neely and Rodney. Who else we got? Diana. All right. Folks coming in, the early birds. Early birds coming in. Okay, so for all the early birds especially. So the question of the day is, what's your favorite ice cream? And pop that in the chat. So I am going to go with, I need to make sure everybody can do the chat. Everyone, there it is. Everyone, we can chat with everybody. Sorry. All right, so the question, okay, butter pecan. Okay, we can do that. Pralines and cream. All right, now see, mint chocolate chip, not but strawberry. There you go. Mine is black. What's happening here? And I can't even type on my own computer. So what's yours, Jamie?
Strawberry.
Mine is black raspberry. With the little chocolate pieces there, that's my favorite. Mackinac Island fudge. James, you live up in Mackinac Island or something? I never heard of that. I've been to Mackinac Island. Very cool place. Never heard of that, James. All right, so the question of the day for everybody that's popping in. Yeah, you've been all over Michigan? Obviously. That's cool. I didn't know that was a thing. Is there a special thing about Mackinac Island fudge? So the question of the day is, I forgot to tell everybody where you're from. Where you're from and what's your favorite ice cream? There's the icebreaker, the ice cream breaker for today. So I'm from Woodstock, Maryland, by the way. For those of you who know where Woodstock is, Woodstock, Maryland. McCary, North Carolina, and Strawberry. That's you, Jamie. I know that. All right, so that's the question of the day. Where are you from? And what's your favorite ice cream? What's yours? Uh-oh. We lost her. We lost her. We lost Kelly. Here she comes. There she is. Kelly.
Sorry.
That's
Having
all
technical
good.
difficulties this
There
morning.
you go. Technical difficulties. You're on the road. She's on the road. She can't. Where are you at? Where are you right now?
Houston, Texas
Houston, Texas.
area, I guess.
In the
that'd be a
area, in
better
the
way-
mobile machine.
That's right.
And what's your favorite ice cream?
I don't know. Maybe chocolate and vanilla swirl type ice cream, whatever you
Oh.
want to call
Okay. Fudge swirl, that'll work.
Fudge swirl.
There you
it.
go.
Fudge swirl, yeah. I don't know the difference in that, and like moose tracks and all the different names you find it under. So
That's a fact.
Fudge
They got all
ripple.
kind of stuff. When I was growing up, we had the three, right? The one that had 3 in one container. Strawberry, chocolate, vanilla.
That's the best one. I think it's called like Napolitan.
Neapolitan.
Neapolitan, but I
Neapolitan.
called it Napoleon growing
Napoleon.
up.
Yeah.
This is actually an EPA and USDA session, so we're just gonna let people come in for just a minute. Let me go ahead and I'll share out the screen so they know they're actually in the right space and not in some kind of crazy ice cream testing station. We will be talking about data collection, compilation, communication, reporting, and project study management. That is a mouthful. But we will be talking about that. But the question of the day to get us cooking is where are you from and what is your favorite ice cream? You can pop that in the chat. And we have a whole bunch of them. Let's see what we got. We got the one that got me was from James, said Mackinac Island fudge. I didn't know that was even a thing. That's
Wow.
awesome. And Todd Bauer says free. That's the best ice cream. That's good. I like it. And Diana says, what else? Chocolate, of course. Absolutely. Mint chocolate chip, pralines and cream. Yes, sir. All right. Very good. Who else we got? Anybody else popping in here saying what they got? Buffalo, New York from Erica and Kansas City, Missouri. Also chocolate and peanut butter. Like that. Jennifer Nelson. Love that. And from Montgomery County, that's not too far. I'm in Woodstock, just north of Columbia. So, and these characters are from Cary, North Carolina. That's where Jamie is. And Kelly's down. Where are you again? Down in Texas.
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. She's down there. You're mobile though. That's not where you normally reside, right?
That's correct. I'm
That's
a
right.
true North Carolinian.
Yeah. So there you go. Black raspberry chocolate chip. That's my favorite too. You can't have it. Man, is Vaza David. All right, we'll get cooking here. I love it. I love it. So we didn't do the sports team. So I'll just go right past that. We did ice cream today. I didn't realize I even had that in the presentation. But there we go. We got with us today. We got Jamie Blackburn. He's a director of iAdvantage. We have Kelly Chapman. She's a scientist out there on the road doing scientific things from her RV. So down in Houston, Texas area. So we appreciate it. I'm Dave Lowe. I'll be your host today. And a little bit, let's talk about iAdvantage real quick so they know who you are. Jamie, give us a dose.
Sure. So we were founded in 03. We're actually headquartered here in Cary. Cary is just south of Research Triangle Park. And it's between Durham and Raleigh, about 12 miles each way. 30 years, we've been doing this work with capturing and managing and reporting for data for science. And that's how we started, was with science. And we've been supporting reports that go from big sponsors to USDA, EPA, and FDA for years. And we're a small business, and we now have our GSA schedule.
Oh, fantastic, man. That's awesome. And that's why you guys are experts in data collection. You've been doing a lot, like you said, with USDA and EPA, with some of the folks on the right-hand side. They're the big boys. A lot of those big boys, especially Monsanto and the like. We appreciate that. We want to welcome everybody that is with those agencies that you just talked about. We USDA and a bunch of different folks that are associated with USDA and EPA. Appreciate everything that you guys are doing for all of us and making sure that that our food supply is safe and all the environmental components along with that. We appreciate that. And we asked this on the way in, best briefing ever. If I learn more about data collection, the pitfalls to avoid. I think we'll talk about that, right, Jamie?
Yes, that's right.
And Dane says the results are evident. And Christopher says, I learned something new. Just anything new is fine. That's awesome. Right. So Stephen says, we get a few laughs while learning about the challenges and opportunities. Stephen, you are man, I'll tell you what, stand by, because we are part-time comedians and it will show, right, Jamie?
It will show how good we are.
It will show that we are part-time comedians. Phyllis, I come away with an improved data collection design. Love that idea, right? Right, Kelly?
Yes, absolutely.
How about this from Davis? It's freaking brief. They got to keep it freaking brief. Love it.
We got to have a definition on what brief is there.
That's Dave. Right. Well, we're going to keep it as brief as we freaking can, right? Alice, ideas are listened to and quality decisions are made. I love that idea, Alice. I'm not sure that this is going to happen exactly the way that you want. But Robert, I learned about process to ensure 100% data integrity. That's a big problem, right, Jamie?
A huge problem.
That is a huge problem. And Robert says, I learned about the process. Well, they already did that. Patrick, I learned about the data resources that I can use in future residue studies. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's right up our alley, Dave.
Yeah.
All right.
They speak our language.
Okay. And Philip, I learned the requirements, the best way to provide metadata. Metadata is a big deal, right, Jamie?
Absolutely. We'll
talk a little bit of that happening out there. And then Felipe says, please address the real-time platform and targeted audience to ensure a full scope of agency input. Wow, that's a lot. I think we'll at least take a stab at that, right?
That's right.
And Linda, how to determine when to collect data in an area where no one or no samples have been collected previously.
Oh, cool.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Rodney has one word: security. I like that. And Kevin, in the age of disinformation, misinformation, how do we mitigate relying on incorrect or misleading information? Woohoo, man, Kevin, I love it. How about that one, Jamie? You like that one?
That's absolutely.
That's all, man. You just got to have data integrity. That's a big thing.
That's
Dane,
right. Start from the roots.
Yeah, buddy. Dane says, current process reviews for efficiency. How do we improve current process without overburdening employees? That's absolutely important. Cynthia, how do I use the iAdvantage products? Woo! I love that one. That's for you guys. We'll that's a softball. we'll give you that one, Cynthia. We'll get that for you. And Siging, I would like to have a video record sent to me because I'll be out of the office. That's easy because we're being recorded right now, and we're going to make sure we disseminate that to everybody so that everybody gets a chance at it. Phyllis, what impact will the new data collection designs have on program evaluations? Woo. I'm not sure we're going to be talking about that one, Phyllis, but I think that if you have good data collection design, you have better impact on evaluations. What do you say, Jamie? How about that from the outside looking in?
Perfect.
So with that, let us know what will make this a great briefing for you. You're here for a reason, and we want to make sure that you get the answers that you need. And if we have them, we'll give them to you. If we don't, we'll figure them out. Right, Kelly Chapman?
Absolutely, yes.
Do the best we can. So real quick, I will talk a little bit about the briefing controls. I'll introduce you to Jamie. We did a little bit of an overview of iAdvantage already, Jamie and Kelly. We have a bunch of big data challenges, and a lot of that deals with the front end and the design of the framework. So we're going to be talking about that. And then the platform and introducing or leveraging or utilizing, whatever you want to call it, scientific methodology, understanding what that means in your data collection so that you have the maximum flexibility. And most importantly, a lot of folks talking about that today, the integrity of the data and it's not a crazy number of people here. We have 37. So we'll make sure we include you in anything that you'd like to talk about. We'll have some recommended action steps, some procurement options, and additional resources if you want them. And the session documents are popping in right this minute. Let me get oh, you got them in. Zachary did. All right. Thank you, Zachary. Zachary popped those in there. So it's the presentation and the capabilities. You'll have that at your disposal. Briefing controls, if you have no idea where you are and this is your first Zoom meeting, I can't imagine that's the case, but you can go up top and you can make it side by side and make it bigger and smaller and adjust this any way you like. And if you'd like to participate, though, if you could pop your things, because we do have 37 folks. So in order to make sure that we can see it, because sometimes it gets lost in the chat, raise your hand or pop it in the Q&A for us. We love, don't we? Kelly, do we love audience participation?
Oh my gosh, it's a requirement for us. Yes, absolutely.
They didn't know it when they signed up, but it's an absolute requirement.
Yeah, don't come today thinking you're going to be asleep.
That's right. No wallflowers. That's all there is to it. No wallflowers. So, but if there is something that you'd like some answers to that you don't want everybody and their mother to see, send it to info@iAdvantagesoftware.com. That'll be down the bottom. You can do that anytime you like. You're not going to believe this, Kelly, but this event is not endorsed by anybody or any agency and is provided to you, the government personnel, for information purposes only, and your participation is not an indication or endorsement or commitment to purchase from any vendor, including iAdvantage. We do that because GSA gave that to us like 10 years ago so that we could do this on briefing so you could actually participate. And speaking of participation, we love to know why you're here. So why are you here? You're management, you want your data to work? Are you an R&D and having current data collection need? Are you tired of scrubbing that bad data? You can pick as many as you like, by the way. This is across the board, you can do that. I'm in procurement and want to know about iAdvantage, or my boss made me come. Some Weisenheimer has to pick that, right, Kelly? Somebody does.
My boss made me come.
But we do want you to be honest. So if your boss really made you come, please tell us.
That's right. We love that. And we also love discussion. So you had something you wanted to kick out that's on your mind about data collection and just the overall process that you see out there, especially in the field. So give us an idea of what you do out there, Kelly.
At iAdvantage and the sister company Global Ag that we represent, we have been out and about collecting data in field situations and water quality studies and environmental data collection for over 40 years. So we completely understand some of the challenges of remote data collection. But I think today you'll see that we have a good handle on what some of your challenges might be. And if you're not collecting data remotely, this tool is very flexible. And we just want to make sure that you tell us what you're looking for, and we want your honesty and participation today. So
love it. And so far 60% have participated, and most of the folks are tired of scrubbing that bad data. And a lot of that revolves around the front end, right, Jamie, which is where you spend a lot of your time. And
That's
we'll
where
talk
we're
a
gonna
lot
s-
about that.
That's where we're going to start. Yeah, we're going to start from the most rudimentary piece because sometimes we forget when we're in the mess where we should start.
Yep. So we have a bunch of folks that are talking about that. And then a lot of folks have a current data need. Love that. And a lot of folks need their data to work. Everybody wants their data to work. And we have the second question. A lot of folks haven't been here before. So welcome to GovBrief for the first time. For the 85% that are new, we love that. So we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, and we want more than 66%, right, Kelly? Kelly's
That's right. That's not good enough. We need to be 80, 90, 100% would be great. So come
That's
on,
right.
everybody, give us an answer.
All right, very good. Well, we're 64%. It's the best we got right now. So let's look at this real quick. So 45% are tired of scrubbing bad data. And that leads us to exactly a setup for you, Jamie. And that is, what about these big agency data challenges
Sure.
that you
So-
have?
So everyone's dealing with the fact that we are creating data almost at a relentless rate. And we're all dealing with things like every 15 minutes, 4 new filing cabinets worth of data. And it's almost like we're outpacing the ability for anyone to have ever kept filing cabinets.
That's exactly
That's
right.
463 exabytes each day. We're up to exabytes now. You can't buy an exabyte drive very easily. And just so you know, we start off with bytes, right? That's a small variation. By the way, half a byte, do you know what it's called, Dave?
No, this should be
A
good.
nibble.
A nibble. Is it really?
So what's this done is it's created this huge issue where we take data and everybody needs it summarized or derived or manipulated. And security even is challenged by some of these things because you don't include some of the detail. Poor documentation impacts. That means things like all of a sudden you're relying on data that was derived from someone else. There could be huge integrity gaps. And also most importantly is you want one thing with your data. You want it to provide valuable insights, not just be there. Having the data is great, but you should be getting insightful from it. And so this just won't scale, folks. This is not going to go, and it's going to keep getting worse every day. And I'm sure most of the people on here would confirm this. And so you bottom line is you want some way to control it so that in time, everyone thanks you, right? There's timely review and access, and they can use it and gain their insights.
And I love that. And so the first thing is, and we already know the answer to this, by the way. So we're just going to confirm this with everybody here. So here it is. How do you collect your data? So we're going to go a couple different ways here because there's a lot of folks. There's some people that were asking this on the way in. How do we get management, executive management, to understand some of the challenges that we have? Well, this is exactly why we asked this. So we're going to pass this on to executive management, right, Jamie? We make sure people know what is happening internally in the agency. We already know what the answer is going to be. While some have a survey tool, which is amazing, we already know what the number one is going to be. And we're not going to tell you what it is. We're already showing you what it is because it happens every day. And still some folks are using their own paper forms as well. So love the fact that there's a lot of survey tools being used, right, Jamie?
That's
love
right.
that. Love that. And
Yeah,
so
because we're going to talk about the methodology that all of these tools should always use.
no matter what.
No matter what.
No matter what. No matter what tool you're using, because the scientific methodology can be overlaid on everything, right? On anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We chose our tool based on the scientific methodology, and we feel like you have to go back to that method. That method is key, and focus on that for going down this path.
And just
while
for
they're filling that
clarification-
out, let's talk about, you mentioned it, getting to the true value and usage, right? That's the whole idea, right?
Right. So kind of that day one, when you start off, when you've been asked to do something with data, the first thing you have to do is, take stock of where you're at. And the first thing you have to do is you have to now assume that you have a level of responsibility. So the first one is you are responsible to design it correctly and collect it correctly and make sure that responders know why they're doing this, why they're providing this, whether it's a survey, whether it's an Excel sheet, or whether it's a product like ours. When asking for the data, the initial values are critical and they're very expensive, actually. You would not believe how much time goes into planning for collecting the right data, and then later on for executing, using it, and then in data science, extrapolating it into other ideas. So mistakes in data analysis, let's face it, you gotta measure twice and cut once here.
Yeah, and that's the idea. And the third one, mistakes on the back end get magnified. So
That's
another
right.
2 seconds. We got 18 and 32. We're getting there, Kelly. We can't force people. But here you go.
Okay, we're not like state testing in the public education system. We're not going to give everybody passing for 60% today. So let's bump this up, y'all. Come on now.
I told you she was going to be on it. But here we go. Spreadsheet. Is this a shock, Jamie?
Not at all.
Not at all. We find this to be the case every time we ask this question at GovBrief, and I know you run into this all the time. And even if you're using a survey tool, a lot of times it gets extrapolated and put into spreadsheets for usage, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we see that a lot. So let me get rid of those for everybody. And so we just asked the question of how there's a different question. You might think it's the same, but how do you collect it, and then how do you manage it? Because this starts to get us into the reasoning behind why you need to be using the scientific methodology, right, Jamie? That's
right.
The whole idea. So now how do you manage it? You export it to Excel. We just talked about that as well. And there's some are getting to databases. Some have custom data management software. We know that's the case, don't we?
That's right.
And third-party contractor performs the work or some other way. And we don't have anybody that's picking paper or notebook this time, which is an interesting thing, because at least not so far. Or they're just saying, I don't want anybody to know I'm still doing with the paper or notebook, is what they're saying probably. Oh, somebody was honest enough.
Well, everything has its benefits, right?
It does.
Paper's cheap and fast and quick, until all of a sudden you have to do more and more, and next thing you know, you're sitting there transposing it over for a million times, and mistakes are occurring.
So when you're thinking about this, Kelly, what are some of the challenges that you see with each one of these?
Well, I think more than talking about the challenges, if I could, I'd just like to speak to the fact that we have been part of the agricultural industry for many years, and it was 100% paper until just a few years ago. And we started with our software transitioning people to direct data collection in the field with or without a Wi-Fi connection. And we'll talk about that more, but we definitely have a respect for coming from paper into a different system like this. So
that is totally true. And if you'd like to participate in some other way, pop it in the Q&A and we'll make sure we get that. And we're going to shut this down in 3, 2, 1. And we got 19 to 31. Here's what it looks like. So how they manage it.
Okay.
There's others. I'd love to hear some of the others. If you want to pop up your hand and let us know how that other works. I'd love to hear that for sure. So there you go. So now, no matter what you're doing, right, you need to have a strategy even before you start, right? So start mapping out the framework of what it is you're trying to accomplish, right, guys?
That's right.
So take us through this, Jamie. What does this mean?
You've set the mindset that you're responsible and that you're aware of how much time and effort you're going to take. You're now going to go into the overall strategy for this, and you're going to keep your requests of data simple. You don't ask the whole address. You might ask town and zip by themselves. Carefully design and consider and consult with an expert. It's really nice to have someone else who understands your data and what you're trying to achieve with it.
That's so true.
Questioning while you're doing things. I wouldn't do this without Kelly. Kelly would absolutely have to be next to me to make sure that we're thinking about this and we're not, and I'm a summary guy, right? So I always think everything too high. Decide what to collect and how to protect it. You can't just collect data and not realize the importance of security on that data and the importance of the compliance that is growing out in the industry. Select a private study management platform. Look, we love our platform. We've derived it over years and years of being challenged and trying things, but there's plenty of ways to do this, and this process applies to all of them. This strategy works. Collect clean, verified data. There is no second try. Is there anything worse than getting a survey you just answered again, or being asked the same questions, right? That's painful, because then you start to question, well, why'd you ask me that the first time? Why didn't I do it right? So it's very important that you have a whole strategy on how you're going to collect it, when you're going to collect it. Oftentimes, like in our case, we collect it over time. We're actually asking the same question very different ways.
And some of the best practice that you want to lay out, again, this overlays whatever process you're using. It doesn't necessarily have to be an iAdvantage thing.
And again, you have to design and define the categories, right? If you're going to ask something over time, you have to make sure that it makes sense on how you're asking it. Ensure all the data is using the same format. You don't want 5 different people answering the same question 5 different ways. You want to try to keep it to a common. And there's a lot of great practices on this. Use closed-ended responses like yes and no, right? If I ask my children something, I'll get every answer, but yes and no. Numeric codes versus character strings. It's very important that whenever possible that you don't have misspellings and such that throw your data off, because when you have thousands of them or even hundreds of thousands, it can be really bad. If any data is unknown, you have to find the best way. You're going to have to spend time with an expert like Kelly to say, hey, how can we collect this, and what is the best summarization, and how can we teach people the best way that this is the common way to answer this question.
So
focus on that raw data, folks. People are going to want to use your data many different ways. You can't summarize it and hope that they understand why you summarize it.
and that's a really good point, Jamie, because one of the last ones we were talking about is actually the same data being used, and that's why we're talking with EPA and USDA. That's why this is happening together, is because EPA needs it one way, USDA needs it a different way, and yet it's the same data, and they want to be able to use that data, right? And you don't want to have to do it twice if you have the ability to do it one time and collect the data properly, and then be able to provide that to different places, because missions are different, right? So as the mission changes, the data doesn't necessarily have to change if it was collected properly to begin with. Isn't that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Love it. And that
then
gets us
finally is the metadata, right? This is really important to think about it more and more, because even though you may understand why you're collecting that data value, you understand what your purpose is or what you want to use it for, chances are the people who are also out there wanting that data, may see that data, need a way to define it to make sure they understand why you collected it, and make it so they don't have to email you or call you. Give them an explanation, give them a good description, things like that. So metadata use is growing quickly. In fact, there's one called FAIR, which is a defined way of how we should collect data and define data so that others can use it without that phone call, without that email, so that it really does become more transparent over time.
Yep. Love that. And all this revolves around, this is something that you do already, but having this applied, whether it happens in paper or whether it happens in Excel or any of those, if you use a scientific methodology as part of your process, it helps to solve a lot of these problems, doesn't it?
That's right. So always define the problem. What's the data requirement? Don't overthink it. Don't go beyond your realms. Keep specific, design a process to answer that problem so that they know. Nothing would be better than it becomes part of their workflow and things like that, that it's easy to go with. Our product is used by, right now, there's probably, I don't know, Kelly, hundreds, thousands of people entering data out in the field. And
I think it also goes back to Linda had said that she wanted to know about samples that previously had never been collected before, types of samples, I'm assuming that means, and this is how for years we have handled that problem. We have a process that we go through to try to make sure we identify exactly what every variable needs to look like and how how it needs to be reported out on the back end is as important as how you think you want to collect it on the front end. And so, Linda, we actually have worked through this for many years with different clients and different types of experiments or studies, whichever you want to call them. And it's why the product is very flexible.
Yeah, so we actually, our product has to be allowed so that when your boss says, hey, we need to do this and collect this data, and then the first day you start collecting, you're kind of going, whew, okay, that's going. Well, the first day they ask you was, how's it going? You want to be able to do something. So we actually have the ability to keep kind of that ad hoc review. Are people entering data? Is it easy? And now we're actually, in our case, we're looking at something called actionable insights, so that when it occurs, if there is an anomaly, we can report on it right away. We're actually told, hey, there's an anomaly. So we definitely feel like this data doesn't just sit there. It's actually quite important. And as big as it gets, it's going to be harder to get through and report on, and looking at a 30-page report to find that one thing that you really want to know when it occurs.
Yep.
So measure twice, cut once.
Always love that. And this goes to having the design to be right first, right?
That's right. So the actual design of data, although it seems small, we get these surveys, we don't think anyone thought about it. No, it's been a lot of work. And anyone who does this sort of thing understands this. In our case, we were designed by scientists for scientists. So they appreciate the fact that we think that way. And we find it's been quite progressive on how do you collect data in massive amounts over time and with resilience, right? Make sure there's lots of resilience. So even though the velocity of data collection has increased, you need that resilience. You have to be able to quickly create those studies. You need to be able to add all the associated items that we talked about, metadata, but there's also relating data together. And then finally, security of data. It's becoming, I would say, increasingly aware that data has value and value to certain people, and it has to be kept within the realm of a person or within a group, or even to be transparent. So what they call, some people using the word federated for medical data, for instance.
Oh, right. Yeah, we have heard a lot about that. In fact, I think there's some executive orders talking about that, in fact.
Yeah.
So collecting, so you get to the design, then you start the collection process.
That's right.
So
and that's probably the part where we sometimes think our job is done. It's not, right? And actually, there's a full life cycle of data until it's actually destroyed or deleted, which in our case, it rarely happens because it's important in science to keep data. So uniform and consistent. You want, if you have to collect it over time, to be the same. It has to almost be easy for the person at the end to understand what they're entering. Multiple labs, geographics throughout user design templates means that we can use the same thing for many different areas. So it applies, and it even applies for other languages. So people who speak Portuguese, for instance, know how to enter it in. Both online and offline. A lot of places that we collect data don't have a network. They won't have a network till 6 o'clock tonight when the truck returns from the field.
All right.
Secure and compliant, absolutely. We've talked about compliance. Let's face it, it's not just here. It's also going to be FedRAMP. It's also going to be GDPR. It's also going to be a lot of different ways. And the world's adjusting. Even our big providers of cloud-based, where we run ours on Oracle and on Azure with Microsoft, they understand this, they get it. And then of course, APIs. The fact is we need data different ways, and we need it now. So more and more, we're finding ourselves creating these, what they call microservices, being able to get to the data from my Excel, because I happen to like Excel, Dave. And I
a lot of people here do too.
That's right. I want to get it and get it quickly. And sometimes it's into huge workflows in companies because it really helps speed that productivity and that time to product.
And I think there's a tremendous advantage to using Excel, provided that the collection methodology that you have for making sure it's consistent is there, right? So,
that's right.
And that, because otherwise you have to do editing to it, and then you have other problems of whether the integrity is right. If somebody's got their fingerprints on it, hey, they could be changing things, or they may have thought it should have said this and it said something else. But I love Excel because you can see things in Excel that you just can't see anywhere else.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
but it also depends on.
Excel is so
Jerry.
good, right? Two people will see the same thing differently. And
Exactly.
that's where we end up having. Have you ever seen anyone who's really good at Excel just accept the way the other person created the sheet?
Oh,
They
heck
tend to
no.
say, oh, no, what they meant to do is this. And
Heck no.
and
What
there
do you got
lies
there,
the
Kelly? What
problem.
were you saying? What were you saying, Kelly?
I was just gonna say that I think that's the situation or location that's described here for collection makes all the difference. You know, as I said, we've been adept for years at trying to make it easy as possible or as user friendly as possible for people in harsh environments outside. And then people say, well, can it be used in a lab? Yeah, honestly, to go from outside to inside is a breeze. Much easier typically machinery wise and everything else on the collection end. But we have tried to make sure over the years that the data is consistent and that it is user friendly how it's collected, and that over time, you know, we can go back 10 years and put data together because the variables were designed right the first time. So
yeah, you can't overemphasize the fact that it needs to be right, that the design needs to be right, and then the methodologies for collection has to align with that. And then you get to a point where you're communicating with everybody else. You mentioned APIs, Jamie. That's one of the ways that you can do that. So we talked about how we collect it, how we designed it, or what you're using, right? So how do you communicate it? Is it through email? You mentioned that, right, Jamie? So somebody
That's
says,
right.
I want to know. A lot of times it's still happening through email. And that's not going to change because we live in email, right? Isn't that where
That's
we
right.
live? But it could be email with spreadsheets, email with summary data, dashboards and KPIs. Always love those, right? Paper reports. Can't tell me that nobody's going to click that because I know that they're still happening. Review meetings. And there's some more down below. And whose choice it, who is it on? Is it on you to assemble the results, to make the data make sense, or make decisions with the data? This is where we really get into how the data is being used and what the job function is, right? We talked about two different agencies, but everybody within those agencies, right, guys? We
Right.
have different reasons and what we do and what our job functions are. So I love this question. It's one of my favorites.
and I would love it if we could get those other 10 people or so that haven't been participating to answer this poll. So come on, guys, how about 100% participation on this one?
There you go. So I told you, Kelly's going to smack you around. Come in here, she's going to smack you around. And she does it with a Southern accent. So if I did it, everybody'd be like, you shut up, Dave. But that's awesome. But we will do that. So while they're answering this, because we're talking about communicating this, we can give an overview. There was a couple things that we did last time. So as far as how they're collecting that, there's a lot of folks that are using R and Python. Is that what I saw?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. I don't even know what are those?
So R is like a statistical package. Boy, it's used around the world. We actually live in Cary, North Carolina, where their competitor to R is called SAS. And both of those tools are used by data scientists and even business people to really break down the data to what they want to see, to gain those insights. That's really what it's about. The R is for getting insights. Python is used sometimes to actually get other data and combine it. I've actually seen Python used for quite a bit. And one of the big things is of using Python to programmatically gain access to like an API or to gain access from services provided by the government.
And so Marcus was talking about exporting in CSV, using R to scrub and analyze.
Yep.
And then obviously you're going to put that back into another system or something.
Yep. Or do reports on and such like that. And he would find it, like in our case, we use the same reason of why we developed ePublisher within our product was what he does, is because that problem comes up. And oftentimes, and Marcus may be able to confirm this, you have to do it not only just once, but several times.
Right. And is that because the design had issues on the front end sometimes, or just not communicated
A lot
right?
of times it's just the data is growing, right? We
All right.
already talked about the velocity of data. So this is a way to just keep update with the reports. So one of the things we found with our product, one of the big requirements was, hey, I not only have to make this this report, I want to do it the same for everybody who does it from our company. And also, like say to the EPA. And then I also want repetitive nature on getting updates to my management team.
Yep.
So you're doing it each week. Well, I don't know about you, Dave. I'm one of those people that I've done things once. I feel like I've defeated the enemy. But when I have to do it for the fourth or fifth week, I tend to do a lousy job, and my boss gets mad at me. Well, we've actually come up with a repetitive method with ePublisher.
I love it. So we'll talk about that in just a minute, but here we go. A lot of folks, most of the folks here, to summarize with executive communication, which leads you right into the review meetings, right? Isn't that
right.
what happens?
Uh-huh.
And a lot of folks are here. Most of the folks have to make the data make sense. That
Sure.
is absolutely awesome. Love it. And so a lot of this we're talking about is, okay, we get to the reporting side. How are we doing this from the reporting side?
Sure. So in our case, and this would work again across, you need a good reporting tool. You need a tool that's going to work for you. And we just saw how some people do it with their communication method. In our case, we think there should be report templates without IT that you can actually create and quickly create, so that on week 2, when you've been asked to add something, you can. We also think they should be generated based on the data being inputted, so that it's almost, you know, just a matter of producing, generating and printing them off or sending them. Reports should contain any possible inputs. Pictures can tell 1,000 words, and sometimes you need to include them. And then publish in formats that other people can use. So sometimes you need it to be, like, we know that CSV is probably, I don't know, I would say everyone knows what CSV. I think my mother-in-law knows what CSV is. So I don't think there's any issue that we need to be able to take it and use it elsewhere. People go, how many times are we asked, can you give me this data, right? That's absolute.
Yeah. And I love what you have up at the top, templates without IT, because the IT folks, they have a different perspective on everything, right? No offense to everybody with IT. You know, I have a bunch of folks that work with me in IT as well, and I love them. But they're not the same folks that are out there like Kelly, who's a scientist that understands the science that they're trying to accomplish, where IT is looking at, to your point, the bits and bytes and apparently nibbles, right, Jamie?
Well,
That's right.
also you've got to think about perspective goes even further than that. It's not just IT and scientists. You got people who are in project management, and it looks like probably a lot of those on the call today. And you know, it's also the fact that, yes, you set up a report template and you can use it, and then all of a sudden something changes and somebody wants it to look different the next 3 times. And instead of having to totally redo that, we have a very nice system that you can change that template, and then every time you run it from that point forward, that change is made. And so we understand that, you know, you can do everything right on data collection. You can do a good job with data management, but ultimately the buck stops with the reporting and the final product that has to go to somebody, whatever that report is, whether it's, you know, mostly data or whether it's a lot of text in the report and explanations. But this reporting function is critical in order to really make use of all that work that's gone in behind the scenes to this point. So
Yeah, love that. So the summary, take us through this.
Sure. So the simple 4-step, right? The wash, rinse, repeat is, you design it, you spend the appropriate amount of time. I actually think you want to spend more time here than the other groups. You want to collect it, you want to report on it, and then you want to be able to repeat that with ease, right? And at any point in time, you want things like data provenance. I want to know where it came from. How did I get this? Because if it is good data and it's useful, guess what? They're going to ask you to repeat it a lot, and it's going to have a wide use.
And back to what you said about data provenance and the ability to make sure that if somebody's touching the data, you can see where it's being touched as well, right?
That's right. In our case, we actually, because of compliance, we are fully auditable, and we have to be what they call validated, so that If someone makes a change, or if they take it from somewhere else, they transcribe it, you want to know, and you want to know how it was done and who it was done by.
Well, and then let's talk about doesn't matter what platform you're talking about. For this is something that you incorporate. However, if you're going to use a platform, it has to meet these,
That's right.
this right here.
We would suggest this for anybody. Again, we're saying that these rules kind of apply across the board, but we feel like right now, cloud-based is certainly gives so many benefits. There's so many people going there, but even more so, just the benefits of addressability with cloud-based. 100% web-based architecture just gives you so much capability, scalable. You don't want it to work for 100, but not work for 10,000.
Right.
Because sometimes that same collection is used by 10,000. Allows for data exchange and integration. We've already talked about this. The data has to be addressable, and I have to be able to get to it when I need it. Compliant with all, well, at this point, it's a given. And I don't think any of the cloud-based guys don't realize this. In fact, all of them offer this sort of support. Immediate access for all stakeholders. The people who want the data or have asked for the data, your boss and so forth, they want to be able to get those updates and keep current. You don't want to send out a collection and then wait. Quickly or easily customized to fit your science. In our case, everything is science. And in our case, we look at everything from this same kind of format. And we think this methodology, you have to make sure that your platform supports this methodology.
So now I'm not going to ask you to talk about other people's platform because that's other people's platforms, and we can't
That's
go
right.
into, I mean, the spider web that happens if you ask about that, but let's talk about what you guys do and how you leverage the scientific methodology exactly like we've been talking about, and how, and that way, at least folks, there's a lot of folks who were asking this on the way in. Who is iAdvantage? What is a software platform? Here we go. Let's talk about that for just a minute.
Kelly, you gonna grab this one?
Uh-oh, she's mutified. And
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry.
yep, we do have a question about data security too. We'll get to that, I promise.
Okay. So scientific method is important. It's the basis of what we do. But just to give you an idea of how it works with the system at hand, the eStudy platform has been designed, as I said, over many years of utilizing it with multi-site studies. And what do we mean by multi-site studies? Those are experiments basically, or GLP studies that happened that had to integrate information and people from lots of different places. So we not only would have in the past historically been at multiple biological sites. Those could be fields or, as I said, bodies of water, rivers, and so forth for water quality. Those samples would have been collected there and then went on to analytical labs for analysis. Data comes back out of that and it has to go back into the system. Analytical residue chemistry, we've been part of that. Gene expression, sample tracking is part of it, but also processing labs, pretty much anything that you could generate data off of the samples that were taken, as well as direct data coming back from those biological sites, all goes into this platform. And out of that platform, we can then produce reports for a client, for EPA, for USDA. We have QA capabilities so that we can have quality assurance involved, but keep all of that as integrated or segmented as we want it to be. And so the flexibility of this system has meant that over time it has been used again for anything from environmental studies to toxicology to basic plant data collection. And it could have been in a field site, in a greenhouse, in a laboratory, in animal studies, you name it. So this platform allows us to not only collect data directly into it, which means no transcription errors. It then it has some quality checks in place in terms of how we design the variables and so forth. And then we have the reporting tool, which allows us not only to generate large, complex reports, but also, as it was mentioned earlier, those can be just update reports to management or to a client or to somebody who is involved that data that's in the system is available at the push of a button. And those reports are all customizable based on what you need for each individual use case.
And that goes towards, obviously you have it called out here for EPA reports and USDA reports, but it's the sub-agencies as well. All of those can be formulated as well, right? It's not just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out. On a slide like this, you run out of room to put so many things. So basically in these bubbles, you could fill in anything that you want to in terms of inputs and outputs and people involved. At this point, we have not found a limitation to any certain group or any type of reporting that we can't handle. So thanks, Dave, for pointing that out.
No, you bet. So let's talk about some of the system growth that you've seen in your system, because I think this applies across the board as well, but you have multiple places, projects, studies, trials, all these happen in the agencies that we're talking about, right?
Right, and they're happening now. They're in our system now. So there's 400 plus major projects going on that kind of trickle down through studies, and within studies are trials. And we use this nomenclature for our world, but it could be whatever the customer would like. And then there's variables, 31,000 variables that we're collecting data on. Someone asked about data security. We have to encrypt every bit of data that goes into an iPad, say in the field, in another country, for instance. And then that encryption enables us to then use the Oracle cloud security and the realm within both the front end and Oracle as to protect ourselves as well as protect the data. We actually kind of hold the data in a high regard. And so even when someone changes data, they're asked to re-enter their password, for instance. So data, wow. All that data is actually incredibly important because we sometimes forget what we did last week, let alone last month and so forth. So this growth is just continuing to go. And we found that this method of doing something with our software has proven itself.
And I would say that I failed on my job on the previous slide because you just mentioned, Jamie, that these terminology can change. So studies could be experiments, if that's what you want to call it, or, you can have whatever terms you want here. But the part I didn't mention is that beyond just being in so many different environments, we also have operated in many countries. And as Jamie has indicated a couple of times, multiple languages. We have some direct language conversion capability or translation capability in the system. So it's very, very flexible.
And I don't want to butcher your name, Vazin, Devin, my apologies. But he says most of our instruments are not connected to the network.
Yeah, because a lot of instruments
Amen.
are more than 5 years old. That's not unusual. So we don't find that unusual, but we have to accommodate that in our plan. And our plan usually includes some sort of transcription. But we also have some uploads of CSV files and things like that directly to our notebooks.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to do that because your inputs are going to come from all that. All right. So
that's right.
Real quick, I'm going to go ahead and ask the question before we get you guys out of here. I want to continue the conversation. What this means is, hey, Jamie and Kelly and the team at iAdvantage be glad to talk with you about this, specifically with what's happening within your agency and your particular trial or your experiment, whatever it is you're trying to do. So do you need help with data collection? Do you have a pilot project? We can talk about that a little bit as well, that you'd like to talk about. I'd like to schedule a demo so you can see actually the inner workings of the eStudy platform. If you'd like to be a panelist, we had some folks answer this last time, said that they wanted to be a panelist. We're working on that, making sure we get them involved for the next one or something else. Please contact me. And that's actually old. It should be 2023 budget driven, since we already ended fiscal year 2022 last month. So
it's already gone.
So there you go. And we do have the session handouts as well. And participation is awesome and easy. We love it. We did have some questions about security before. If you have any other questions, let us know. I'm looking to see if I missed anything else.
Dave, while you're looking, I'd just like to tell everybody that when you answer this poll on, I want to continue the conversation, just know that if you say, I need help or I have a pilot project, Jamie and I aren't real hard sell people. So it's not like we're going to be binging you with something every 20 minutes or every day on your email. This is more about, I saw something of interest. I just like to talk a little more and make sure I understand what's available or see, does this fit with a need? And if you tell us it doesn't, you don't have to worry. We won't be calling you during Sunday lunch or anything like that, like telemarketer. So.
No, that's no doubt. And you guys have talked to a bunch of folks, and there's sometimes when, all they needed was just some basic advice, right, Jamie?
That's right, because we have a, interagency briefing allows us to peek in and allows us to see all these different areas and allows us to have conversations. And these conversations, oftentimes, we're learning. We're learning
Absolutely.
about how people are approaching problems. And not only that, we actually see that perspective for other people. We're happy to share it. We'd love to. We welcome those opportunities.
And how much does it cost to talk with you, Jamie?
Yeah, well, no, it's free. Yeah.
And favorite 4-letter word. Free.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we learn as much as oftentimes as they might think we're providing. We're learning as well.
There's no doubt about it. So real quick, your eStudy platform was built to take advantage of scientific methodologies and put it into place. If you aren't already putting that into place, no matter what, you want to use the scientific methodology, right, Jamie?
That's right. It's a great approach to everything you do in this case.
Yep.
Good design equals good data.
All day long.
It's an easy thing, and you cannot. And we probably have lots of people here who would know this, but you cannot scale bad data. You cannot keep having it grow and it not be overwhelming without being able to start off good. So at some point, you get the chance to relook at how you're doing things. What they say, if you're in a hole, stop digging, right?
That's exactly right. And
well, we talk about scaling, but we don't even hardly address in here. You can't even report bad data. So, if you don't collect it right, you're just out of luck all the way around in terms of your process and losing time, which often we know that if you're doing environmental data of any type, you lose a whole year if you lose a season. So it's very important that you get it right the first time.
yeah, you've had that happen multiple times. I know. Where if you miss it, it's not just missed for a couple of days. It can take you an entire year to make up. So, all right. Well, if there isn't anybody that wants that, we'll make sure we get the recap to everybody, and everybody can choose to meet up with you later if they want to. As I mentioned earlier, there is no obligation to purchase from iAdvantage, but if you like what you heard, you can. Why? Because they have a GSA contract and they have everything that you need as far as procurement. If you need to throw it over the fence to procurement and you need 8A or Hub Zone or Woman Owned, that can be done as well. As I mentioned, you will get a recap email that'll have the briefing presentation. That'll happen by the end of today. And we'll also have one that is repurposed so that you can share it with your colleagues. That'll go out probably early next week. But in addition to that, you have the capabilities, link to the video, and one-on-one meeting option to check out if you'd like to meet with Jamie and or Kelly. And with that, we got you out of here a couple minutes early. We appreciate you guys joining us today. I just love what you guys are doing in the scientific community, especially you, Kelly, in your mobile device out there. And now you don't even know. She's actually sitting in an RV on site, working on a project right now, right, Kelly?
That's right.
So we definitely appreciate you joining us. And Jamie, as always, great job. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You're welcome, Diana. We appreciate you joining us. Everybody else that's here, we really enjoy it. You are welcome. Everybody that is here. Anything else you need, reach out to info@iadvantagesoftware.com and they will make sure that you get the information you need. You're welcome, Erica. All right, guys, and for everybody that didn't tell us what their ice cream was, make sure you know next time. We're going to ask that next time. All right, guys. Awesome job. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Cheryl. You're welcome, Rod. See you guys.